Hello, hello. This is about sewing emblems or patches on jackets and hoodies and shirts, often thicker material than is typical for sewing. Here's an example of an emblem on a hoodie. It adds a lot more to the clothing, kind of an interesting touch. And this is not too difficult, but there are several issues to consider. One issue is to see if there is anything behind it, like a pocket or a lining, because this can make an effect that can be undesirable. Now here's a patch placed on the sleeve of a heavy leather jacket. This patch is considerably larger and yet in some ways easier to deal with. However, we have several issues here to consider. One is the thickness of the leather. The second is the lining. Of course, there is a consideration of placement. And finally, you have to have a machine capable of performing this action with a minimum of difficulty. I'll go into some of this in more detail, but I don't know if anyone's interested. So let me just say that in basic terms, you need a sewing machine capable of piercing several layers of leather. That's a good test. I took an old belt with me and tested sewing machines, of which I found only two, the Bernina and the Pfaff, at the middle to the high range, that were capable of piercing through two layers of leather, like an old leather belt. Second thing, of course, is you have to have a good needle, preferably a sharp new needle, and one that is specifically made for thicker material so it'll sustain itself. You have to consider also a foot. Now, a foot on a sewing machine is the thing that's laying right on top of the cloth. And I did several where I had just an ordinary foot. But believe me, it's hard to see where you're going. Now, in a patch like this, let's get this thing higher. A patch like this, basically you're going around in a circle. Okay, and that's not too bad. And here's a patch here where you're going around in a square. Again, not too difficult. But still, it would be better if you could see the stitching as you're performing it. There is a foot called an open toe foot. It has a lot of room inside. Not a lot of holding room, but a lot of visible room. And as a result, you can pretty much watch the needle as it's going in real clearly, very clearly. And I will show you later or in other videos examples of patches and emblems that are much more complicated, like a star, for example, where you have to go in and out. And there's a case where that type of foot is important. Finally, I'm going to end this video with one other issue. For quilters, there is this thing called a foot control. Actually, it's a knee control. It sticks into the sewing machine and it lifts the foot. Instead of having you have to put your hand behind the needle area and lift the foot, you use your knee to kind of pick up the foot just a little bit. So if you're going through stuff that is intricate, you got to change direction several times. As a result, you want to be able to keep your hands on what you're doing and not have to keep on moving your hands back to raise and lower the foot. So this is a very useful feature on a sewing machine for doing this kind of work. I'm going to end it here, but if I get any good comments, I'll continue talking about the subject. Again, this is just how I do it, and I'm sure there's a million people who do it better, and I'm just trying to offer some points of view since I haven't seen too many of these on YouTube. Thank you.